Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we begin a 5-day program on how we can empower our young people. Before we do that, I want to just make note of one piece of news in particular that just emerged over the last 48 hours. As most Americans were celebrating Thanksgiving, it was released in the media that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, along with the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, in collusion with the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Mike Rogers, and the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Turner, are seeking to kill the UAP Disclosure Act as it goes into its final negotiations as part of the larger National Defense Authorization Act for 2024. I want to take a moment to review what this means and encourage each and every one of you, particularly U.S. citizens or people who know people in the U.S. government who live abroad, that we're now coming into the final battle for what is arguably the most important piece of legislation, possibly in history, the UAP Disclosure Act. A UAP is the term used by the U.S. government to reference the UFOs, but which they now call the unidentified anomalous phenomena, as a broader, more inclusive terms, because the UFO phenomena was much larger than just alien spacecraft, as we all know. And over the last several years, the U.S. Congress has piece by piece put into law the beginnings of a disclosure of all the information that the U.S. government and contracting corporations have gathered about the UFO, UAP phenomena over the last 80 years since the end of the Second World War. It's clear that the U.S. government has extensive evidence, including numerous alien craft, numerous alien bodies. The U.S. government has been actively engaging in reverse engineering of the technology that they've retrieved, and have been using it exclusively to enhance their military capacities as they attempt to exert what they call full spectrum dominance over all the other countries around the world. There's been a very powerful and growing citizen movement for disclosure that really reached a milestone in 2017, in December of 2017, when the New York Times, on December 5th of that year, in a front page article, revealed that the U.S. government, and specifically the Department of Defense, had evidence about the UAP phenomenon. And it was an extraordinary milestone because it was evidence provided by a whistleblower, a gentleman who was deeply embedded in the U.S. intelligence community and was the head of the UAP task force of the Defense Department, who brought this information to the New York Times, along with videos taken by U.S. Pilots of fighter aircraft with incontrovertible evidence of spacecraft that could do extraordinary things not possible according to any of the laws of physics that the human community knows today. And that began an internal movement inside the government, and in particular in the Congress, that has been essentially excluded from all this information since the Second World War, to begin to exert the right of the Congress as the locus of the U.S. government, according to Supreme Court rulings, to take possession of this information and begin a process of disclosure. Many of you may have seen the hearings in the House Government Oversight Committee on July 26th, just several months ago, where one of the other intelligence operatives inside the government, David Grush, testified in open congressional testimony that yes, the U.S. government does have craft in its possession and does have what he referred to as biologics, which are alien bodies, and that there's advanced reverse engineering taking place on the part of the military industrial complex. And Grush, along with the Republican and Democratic House members, with unanimity on that committee, said that this information needs to come out. And that's a very important point that I want to make. When this legislation was initially passed by the Senate Intelligence Committee, it passed with unanimous consent by members of both parties. And if you know anything about U.S. politics, for there to be a bipartisan consensus and unanimity around anything is almost unheard of. But it exists around the necessity of disclosure of this information to the world public. The reason why I'm working on this full time here in Washington is because if you think about it, this is not only the most significant piece of legislation in history, it's the most important milestone in the history of the humankind, the human race, our species. Because this is the first time when all of us, globally, simultaneously, will take in, with evidence provided by the U.S. government, that we are not alone, that extraterrestrial intelligences exist. They've been on planet Earth. There's been sustained contact, and the evidence is now forthcoming. This is the first time in human history where what is emerging as a factual reality provides all of us, no matter who we are and where we come from, with a single narrative. And if you look at the evidence of what the extraterrestrial beings have been communicating to people all over the world since the Second World War, the most common communication is for humanity to stop killing each other, stop destroying the environment, and in particular, stop our nuclear weapons. And there's evidence, not only in the United States, but in both Russia and China, of the UFOs shutting down nuclear facilities, nuclear aircraft carriers, and nuclear weapons silos. So the ETs are amongst us, not as just some neutral observers, although it's obvious that they're doing that as well, but they're coming to our planet at this time in vast numbers, communicating with people all over, that the human race has essentially become a virus. We're killing each other and we're killing our host, and we need to stop it. And so for the US government at this moment, when we teeter on the brink of self-destruction, to engage in this process of disclosing the very information which, if we embrace in a positive, proactive way, could provide the solution that we seek, is an extraordinary synchronicity of spirit and history and human destiny. So we're going to be talking about this virtually every day between now and the vote by the Senate and the House. They each voted bills around the Defense Authorization Act. There's differences in languages in each of the versions. They're now in reconciliation. The Schumer-Rounds Amendment, the UAP Disclosure Act, is embedded in these negotiations. We now have the Republican right gathering their forces to eliminate the UAP Disclosure Act from the bill entirely, or to gut it. And so all of us, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you think is important, it is important. And we have a time-specific, very limited window of opportunity to democratically contact our congressional representatives in the House and in the Senate and urge them to pass the UAP Disclosure Act. This is history. This is like being alive at whatever the most momentous historical event you can imagine is. And you can be part of it by participating, sending this information out. I'm going to be putting links in the chat. We'll be sending out to each and every one of our members of the Humanity Rising community, our Ubiquity community, information about how you can get involved. And I'll be tending to this day by day as we go through the process and providing updates so we can stay informed about this historic milestone in human history. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your attention on this matter and hope that all of you will engage. The Senate reconvenes today. The House reconvenes tomorrow, and then it's game on. And we know who Goliath is and how we embody David will determine our fate. It's my pleasure now to introduce my very good friend and colleague, Dehanna Rice, who has convened multiple programs on Humanity Rising. She is a psychotherapist. She's a polarity practitioner. She's engaged in regenerative health at more levels and with more people than anybody I think I know. And now she's turning her attention to how we empower youth. So Dehanna, thank you so much. Welcome to Humanity Rising, and I turn the program over to you.
Thank you so much, Jim. Wow, what a time to be alive on the planet. It is so important, this turning point in our history. It's so invigorating to come to the table with the, I guess it's the Jesus moment, for humanity. Wow, what a time to be alive. And thank you for the introduction. I've been involved with health for many years now. My impetus is to really bring down the volume of our inner noise because the outside is so bombarding us every moment. And this beautiful panel that I'm about to introduce this whole week, we are going to be working with what's called the Adulting Alliance. This has been a dream of mine for like 10 years. I'm like, what do I need to give the planet that would really be so transformative? And it's the youth, really supporting 18 to 25-year-olds that are called the emerging adults. And I really honor each one as I introduce them. We're going to start, as I said, I'm a practitioner with a little bit of lowering the volume of the noise by doing a little bit of a practice. So I'm going to do some sound healing. I ask you to unbusy your hands, put your feet flat on the floor, palms facing down on your lap. And just allow this sound to enter the space. Clearing any combustible energy to calm it into the perfect fifth, the intrinsic part of us, the ultrasonic core. I'm a polarity practitioner. That is Dr. Randolph Stone's premise, is that we are sound and light at our intricate self. Let that move through you. This is for our heart fields. We need to expand with love and compassion for all on the planet right now that are suffering. Beautiful. Now we're going to do a little breath work. This is coherent breathing that all of us here on Humanity Rising, I'm a part of your community. I'm so honored to always come on Humanity Rising. And this is the beautiful coherent breathing rhythm. We're just going to do a couple minutes of it. There's two tones, a high tone. We're going to be breathing in, and the low tone we're going to be breathing out. Together, breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out through the nose, 3, 4. Breathing in gently as if you're on a beach and a wave is washing up you, and breathing out. The wave is washing down. Breathing in gently through the nose, as if you're sipping it in through a straw, the air. And breathing out, letting go. Breathing in, the wave is washing up you. And breathing out, the wave is washing down. Imagine the wave within inside of you washing up. And imagine it washing down the balls of the feet, letting go what no longer serves you. Breathing in new energy within you. And breathing out, letting go of stagnant energy. Breathing in, inside, new energy. And breathing out, balls of the feet. We're going to do one circuit in the body. Breathing in, focus on the top of your head. And breathing out, the base of your spine. Breathing in, top of the head, every little hair follicle focus on. And breathing out, the base of the spine. The whole pelvic basin is expanding. Breathing in, new energy, crown of the head. And breathing out, base of the spine. One more time. Breathing in, top of the head. And And we're just going to sit in stillness a little bit, feeling any changes in the mind and the body. Beautiful. I'm so honored today. It is our benediction day for Adulting Alliance to invite beautiful Anasuya to come on and do a invocation prayer for this group. I'm so honored to have you here, dear. Take it over, and then I'm going to describe your bio, and then I'll invite all the panelists on. So the floor is yours, dear.
Thank you so much. Peace and blessings, everyone. Please continue to have your eyes closed as we just stay in our relaxed state of integrated breathing. As we call upon the beautiful forces of love that surround us, that embrace us, that hold us, that holy comforter, that peaceful, sacred Holy Spirit, that enlivening breath that comes in us and out of us and through us and with us and for us. We invoke all of these forces of nature, of cosmic love, out of which we all were birthed. We invoke our ancestors, our guardian angels, all those who watch over us, walk with us, protect us, guide us, love on us. Can you feel it? We call upon the sources and forces of wisdom to be with us now so that we can truly hear that which is coming to us, not only from the panelists, but from the spirit realm, the ancestral realm, the divine realm, the heavenly realm. All are speaking to us in an effort to empower our leadership, empower our reach, so that the more we think, the more we speak, and the more we share, the more people we reach with transcending, transmuting, and alchemizing wisdom that can shift the consciousness on this planet in the way that it so needs, as we have heard both from our alien family and from the Earth's core, and from nature, and even from the wells of our inner being. We've been hearing it's time for a paradigm shift to save humanity. Earth's gonna be fine. We, on the other hand, not so sure. So let us be the change we wish to see. Let us welcome the information that's coming today and this week with open heart and open love, with the willingness to co-create and partner with the panelists in ways that will make the greatest difference for our emerging adults, those young people between 18 and 25 who are looking for eldering wisdom and guidance from those who are older, who have come before them, who have learned a thing or two. That would be me and you. Let us listen for how we can serve them so that they can go off and lead us to the new paradigm shift that the earth is calling for. These things we invoke in the name of love, justice, purity, and peace. Ashe, amen, a woman, hallelujah, aho. Now, while your eyes are closed and you're in this moment of oneness, remember a time, not any time, but the time when you were 18. Take a minute to look at what is your fondest memory of being 18 years old? Was it graduating high school, going to your prom? Was it going into the military or going to college? Was it getting engaged or getting a job? Was it sitting under a tree confused? What is your most vivid memory of being 18 years old? And what is your most vivid memory of being 25 years old? Had you graduated from college and started working, maybe grad school? Did you get married? Did you travel around the world? Did you go help an elder parent? Who were you and where were you at 25 years old?
Beautiful. Wonderful. I'm going to I love that whole invocation of where were we? I'm
Right?
describing Anasuya Isaacs as she's a mystic midwife, creates a brave space for individuals to reclaim their divine self-worth, which we've experienced here through immersive workshops that celebrate our shared human experience across cultures, races, and faiths. Her global journey across 24 countries informs her healing practice, transforming personal adversities into sources of strength. Anasuya's compassionate outreach has touched lives from homeless youth to survivors of abuse and refugees. So welcome, my dear, and thank you so much for that beginning question, which we're all going to be answering. I'm going to bring on a couple of others, starting with Stephanie Atkinson Schwartz. Stephanie is a multidisciplinary artist, photographer, sensory exploration guide with a biomimic lens. Stephanie's deep-rooted love for photography and art is derived from her passion for nature and a way of seeing sound, vibration, and light. Her personal experiences while growing up include temporary hearing loss, lack of stereo vision, which she now has, and being neurally diverse, including synesthesia. We want to know what that's all about. That was a new word for me when I was really understanding where you come from. Her desire to assist others expand their own ways of seeing and sensing, and an invitation to explore and perceive the world and perspectives in new ways that may not have been considered before. I love that. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shay Sun. Wow, Shay Sun is such a bright light. I can't even wait for everybody to meet this individual. He is an award-winning educator, seasoned coach, and author. He's dedicated to fostering committed intimacy. His vision is a world where greater intimacy thrives. He integrates modern neuroscience and ancient Chinese philosophy to guide committed couples in understanding the dynamics of safety, significance, and pleasure. Yeah. Shay's coaching heals the loneliness and disconnection stemming from the lack of understanding the differences between male and female sexuality. I've learned so much about that subject from you, Shay. Thank you. He believes that stable relationships not only benefit couples, but also children and society. Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you, Dehanna, and thank you, Humanity Rising.
Cindy Urbano. This is a powerhouse, beautiful Peruvian woman. She is a registered laughter yoga leader with a background in psychology. She has had the honor of working with a wide range of clients, guiding them to discover the potent, inherent power of laughter. We need this on the planet. Yes, hallelujah. especially during challenging times. For her, laughter serves as a steadfast companion available at any moment, whether in solitude or within a group. So important. Thank you so much for being a part of our group, Cindy. And I'm so glad you were able to join us, dear. She just moved to Guatemala a week or so ago. So we've been debating if she can even come on today. That's why her bio is not in today's programming. But on Friday, it will be, and she will be presenting more of her laughter yoga and maybe a little snippet today. So welcome,
Yes.
everybody.
Welcome. Hi, everyone. Thank you.
I'm so honored to have all of you here and to turn this Humanity Rising community on to your wisdom. So much wisdom in this group. And I just want to start with my own little story. And focus on what Anasuya has invoked is, where were you at 18? You know, what was going on? I mean, just to bring our mindset back into when the beginnings of just understanding the world. I have to say, this whole impetus for me, and probably was subconscious, that I started very, very early in the professional realm. I graduated from high school at 16. I was a December birth, so I graduated a year ahead of my class and then was so young. And I became a professional dancer. A lot of these people in the community are going to hear a part of my life story they haven't known about me. And I was a dancer for Arthur Murray Dance Studios at the height of the disco craze, right after Saturday Night Live was released. And so I was doing performances in clubs with a partner with, you know, I'm one of those girls that they were flipping around with the disco dancing. And everybody thought I was in my 20s, but I was only 16. And so I was in that, the milestone thing when Anasuya, when you mentioned, where were you at 18? Something happened at 18 for me. I had my first paying job as a model for Macy's in Kansas City, Missouri. I'll never forget that. I had been taking pictures with my brother-in-law since I was 15, but it was my first paying job. I was like, wow, what am I doing in the dance business? I can, you know, it's so masochistic. I was working so hard, long days, you know, rehearsing in the early morning, teaching through the night. I was so exhausted at the end of my week. I literally fell asleep in my clothes on Friday, which was like, you know, you're a young person with a lot of energy, and that takes a lot out of you. So I had my first paying job, and I broke my ankle at 20, got me out of the dance business pretty quickly. And I moved to New York, and I signed with Ford Models at 20. And I'm like, wow, hallelujah. I can actually travel and see the world. I used to have this little, it was a comic strip about, I want to see, it was basically the nuclear weapons were going to blow it up. Somebody's like in their backyard with a barbecue, and he looks over and he sees a nuclear, you know, cloud. And it was like, uh-oh. And that was my premise, to travel and see so much about the world, because I really felt that it was a maniverse at that time, and they were just going to blow up the world. I already had that in my consciousness. And so just jumping forward to 25, by the time I was 25, I was settled in New York City, and I had worked on every continent and explored every continent but Antarctica and South America. So someday I want to go down to Peru to really explore it with you, Cindy, because I have not been on that continent. And that's when I started acting. So at 25, I had been, you know, I already been in the workforce for 9 years. And a lot of my friends were going to college, of course, and getting their degrees. I'm just a self-taught kind of geek on nature and self-healing. And that's always been, you know, health has always been my hobby. And then I became a practitioner later when I was about 35. So that's my 18 to 25 story. I think I'm going to give it to Stephanie. Where were you at 18 and 25?
All right. Well, 18, I was living in New York and I was preparing to go to Syracuse. I got into the art school there. And just a year prior to that, a guidance counselor told me that I better set my eyes on the community college if I was going to go to college at all because of my grades. I probably might not even get in anywhere. And, it might have been fine to go to the community college, but I really wanted to go away to school. I did. At that moment, I made a decision that I was going to go to school elsewhere. And I focused my attention on getting into art school. And it was something that I watched my brother do. So I created a portfolio. And I had guidance doing that. And it had a great time making it. I applied to 8 schools and I got into 7 out of them, which was just amazing. I was so excited about that. And, that's one of those times of turning a challenge into an opportunity. And since it was May that I turned 18, I would have also been honored with an Art Achievement Award. And I had never won anything before. So I just was really psyched that I was able to focus in that way, as focus is something that is challenging for me. So by the time I was 25, I was living in New York and I could say that I had my dream job. It was something that I really wanted. There was this thing called a paint box at the time. And it was a way to paint with light on a computer. And it was such a large computer. It was in the other room. And other people did everything, to help the computer. And what I did was paint with light on it and make things. And I demoed and trained all over the country on that state of art piece of equipment. That it also gave rise to the whole MTV movement and stuff like that. And so I loved it. I loved traveling and teaching and sharing this way of painting with light. And also just to say that at that time, the Persian Gulf War had just started. I was writing to a Marine while going to peace rallies at the same time. That's where I was at 25. Thank you.
Wow. I didn't know that about you, Stephanie. That's fantastic. Wow. What a trajectory. Beautiful. So I'm going to invite Shay, Mr. Sun, on to share your stories.
Thank you, Dehanna. So at 18 years old, I was in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was in North Bay in Nevada, which I am right now. And I was with my girlfriend. We had been dating for 2.5 years. And I knew the fact that we were going to break up soon. She is African American, and she was going to an all-black school. She was going to Howard. So at 18, I was saying goodbye to her, and I was going down to Southern California to go to, at that time, I was very active in the church. So I went down there to actually become a youth minister, or to get my, I was going to major in religion and minor in sociology to be a youth minister, because that's what I was wanting to do. I'm not even sure if all you guys know that. And so I went down there, and so actually I worked at a church for a little while, and then at 25 years old, my life was a lot different. At 25 years old, I had already graduated from college. I got my teaching credential. I was married for 3 years, because I got married at 21. I had my first house at 25. I think my wife at the time, I'm divorced now, I think she even sent out invitations. I think that with Jim was talking about aliens. I actually had an invitation with alien heads on them. And the reason why was because I was becoming a citizen to the United States. And so we sent out these green aliens with the USA flag on top, and we invited people over to our house to celebrate me becoming a citizen. But my thought at that point was not actually to go into ministry, being a youth minister. By that time, things had shifted, and my plan was to go to China to be a missionary. That was my goal at that time, and so things had shifted quite a bit for me. And I was teaching. I had already been teaching for about 2 years. I was a 8th grade English teacher by that time. So a lot shifted. It was a huge journey in that short amount of time.
Absolutely. I mean, our journeys really, it's a transformation from 18 to 25. We're trying to bring everybody's attention to how much can change in this emerging adult time. So I invite beautiful Anasuya back and sharing her story. And thank you so much for your invocation. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day tomorrow if you're down under. Okay, so, my life was really interesting at 18. It okay. I'm in shock. I'm not shocked. I'm still in awe of what happened. So at 18, I was a sophomore in college. I was happy about it. I was thrilled about it. I had just returned that August back from summer vacation to begin my sophomore year. And I was then introduced to one of my greatest spiritual teachers ever, uh, um, Baba Muktananda, and then Gurmai Chitvilasananda of the Siddha Yoga Path. And wherever my life was going before that fateful day in August, my life changed completely because I heard a message that I'd never heard anywhere. And it says, God lives within you as you. See God in yourself, see God in each other. And all of a sudden, like my life made sense. It had purpose. And whatever I was going to college for before, everything before that disappeared. I don't even remember freshman year. But I remember that my whole inner paradigm shifted, just understanding God lives within me as me. What? I'd never heard that before. So I was emboldened to like really see, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to have something I was taught was outside of me that required a lot of submission, that required me to admit guilt and sin? What happens when all that disappears? Who am I? So it was set me off on a wonderful journey to discover that and to gain my voice. Okay, so who is a person who has God within her? What does she say? What does she study? What does she advocate for? I was very big into social justice issues. I was very big into racial disparities, gender disparities. I was really clear that I had to use my inner divinity to do good on this planet because it was crazy times on Earth, as it is now. But I was very clear. My voice mattered. Like for me, it was like, okay, Anastasia, now you know why you're here. Get studying for stuff that really matters. Fast forward to 25, my world was completely different. So what I decided in college was to be an ambassador. I wanted to be an ambassador. I was going into foreign service. And so I studied, one of the many things that I studied was French. So I became bilingual because that's a requirement in the foreign service to be bilingual, if not trilingual. So I thought I was going to France for 3 months right after college. And it turns out, turned into 5 years. So at 25, I had already been in Paris 3 years. My French was impeccable. So I gained that. But I also understood that if I was a diplomat in the way that I thought I was, I would actually be a puppet for the American government, and which could be good if I agreed with their policies, but it would be terrible if I was the black face representing these laws that were going to be hurting many Black and brown people. So I was like, I must be another way to be an ambassador. So I became a cultural ambassador using theater, using film, using poetry as a way to cause change in consciousness and awareness by starting off supporting people and seeing the divinity within them. So it became this complete cultural ambassador using the arts and using inner divinity, like spread love that way and get people conscious of your voice matters. Whether you say it in a poem, whether you say it in a book, whether you say it in a play or a film, your voice matters. So use it.
Wow. Yeah, that's power for you. I love that trajectory. Woo. Okay, Cindy, you're up. I'm so curious about this. We have not really heard these stories. All of us have been together 7 months. We're discovering more and more about each other, and I'm fascinated by you. I'm wondering, what did you do as a youngster at 18?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for everyone just being aligned with us, like just sharing this wisdom about how emerging adulting. So when I was 18, being a Latino and being just so common in a Latino community, it is when you are 18, even though you're married or you're single, you're still living with your parents. So I was kind of living with my parents and supporting them, helping them in the job that they were doing, but not being paid, and studying psychology and not being sure if that was a career that I wanted to keep following or not. But even though I was facing like challenges in the family, because I wanted to leave home too when I was 18, because there was my dad drink alcohol all the time, and so many issues going on, and being just like an older sister, it was like a big responsibility under my head. So I wanted to leave home, but I couldn't because I was following the career. And even though there were these challenges, I always made space for fun, always just like taking a time, just like to go and dance, to participate in events like most Latinos do usually, and play, sing sometimes in the church or anywhere. So I was trying to find some outlets for that, being in Peru. But by the time I was 25, things were totally different. So when I was 25, I had finished already my career, and I graduated as a psychologist in Peru. But then I decided to move here to the United States, and just being an immigrant there. So my focus was totally different. Now I was like, by the first time, I was like really emerging to be an adult and just like to find a success. But I was so focused on just getting money, as I think most people who immigrate to the US, they really come because they don't have that opportunity in their countries. And most of us just focus on getting money, being successful, or study or doing something, but we forgot. And that's what happened to me. I forgot about that little piece that I was not conscious to have fun in my life, to make a space, to give a time, and just to say, Cindy, you can go out and just like, do something that keeps you, cultivates joy within you. I forgot that. And later on, I got the consequence, and I can go on with the story later on, but that's what happened when I was 25 for sure. I forgot by that time. I really forgot about what joy was. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. So much vulnerability. Everybody sharing your stories. I really appreciate it. I am so moved by this particular emerging adult time. There's on the planet like Jem bringing out this come to Jesus moment for the aliens and all the technology that's flooding and the AI right now. This generation is probably more bombarded by stress and challenge than any time before. Just the layers that are now confronting a young person at 18 is totally different from what we confronted, whether we were in Peru or the United States or California or Minnesota or New York, everything has shifted so much for this youth that it's so important to honor, where they're really at. What are they going to be doing with their education? Just with AI, to me, is like mind-boggling that if they're starting their college career or just going into the workplace now and trying to find the right job to really, make a stable living, it's so different. Our world is so different. We're coming up on 10 to the hour, so I want to continue into the questions that we've all agreed to answer and connect to today, so the audience can really see where we're at and what we want to support and offer this particular adulting group. So the second question is, to everyone, what is your unique perspective that could make a difference for the emerging adults? Your unique perspective. And I want to start out with Steph. If you can just give us a little.
Okay, thank you. As Dehanna shared from my bio, I didn't have stereo vision. I have a unique way of seeing, quite literally, that I'll share tomorrow due to the way that my eyes work. I was losing my hearing as a child. And from that, I have a unique sensory awareness. And I believe our senses and sensing capacity have barely been tapped into. And so much of my diverse life makes me really relatable to what youth are going through. So just to say a few things, I came in on lines of trauma, which we can really relate to today. I'm Jewish. My maternal grandmother came running here from the Russian pogroms in what would be called Ukraine now, which I didn't find out until we didn't really know where she came from. So I didn't really know about that part until that war started. And she lost her whole family when she came over here during the Holocaust. So trauma, that lens of trauma, I really believe that shakes up the water. And it's really why we need programs like this to calm the nervous system. Because there's an aspect that I believe, like this neural diversity that I have, could very well have come from that. I went through sensory integration therapy. I've had times of depression and lack of hope, and times of different socioeconomics. I've been married to a man. I've been married to a woman. I have children who are twins, who are 17. I've been divorced with children. I've never given birth. I'm an adoptive parent. I biohacked my brain, which I'll talk about tomorrow. So I could say, like, a lot of life experience, I believe, makes me really relatable to a lot of the challenges that people are going through today. So thank you.
Right. Thank you. That is going to be a humdinger tomorrow. I want to really jump into that. Jay, Mr. Sun, can you share your unique perspective?
Yes, I can. So I was mentioning a lot about like church stuff, right? And so when I was in high school, that's when I started going to church. And it was during the time in the 80s. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like a huge abstinence movement, both in the government and also in just in a lot in society. So I took that whole pledge, right? So that whole, like, I think it was, I don't know if it was called promise something. Anyway, so that's one of my unique perspectives, is because even though I'm 48 years old, in terms of my journey, in terms of intimacy and things like that, it's been different than from a lot of people. There was no like I never had sex with my girlfriend in high school, even though we dated for 2.5 years. It's funny because actually when we started dating, she had 2 months later, she asked me, she's like, I really want something from you. And I don't know where my brain was, but she really just wanted a kiss. I was with her for 2 months and I didn't even give her a kiss, right? So think in terms of like my mindset. And then when I did get, then I lost my like intercourse virginity, whatever you want to call that, on my honeymoon. So I think those are some perspectives that I have. They're different. And then when I got divorced at 40 something, I think it was like 42. At 42, here I am, having only been with my wife, or my ex-wife, and now back in this transitional stage, back into this very much like an emergent adult stage. Like I felt like I was back in high school trying to figure things out a little bit. And so there's that piece in terms of the religious and like conservative piece. And then the other piece is the fact that I'm ethnically Chinese. I was born in Seoul, Korea, and I came to the States when I was 2 years old. I mentioned that about the whole me getting my citizenship. But after my divorce, I started reading Taoism, right? Like Laozi's Tao Te Ching and things like that. And then also looking at ancient Chinese sexologists and what they had to share. And what I discovered was that I was like, wow, the Taoists have a lot to say about female pleasure. And so much of this I discovered after my divorce was very intuitive to me. And not a lot of Asians even talk about, I mean, especially sex, because it's such a taboo. I mean, I know it's taboo in a lot of cultures, but especially modern day, a lot of Asians don't like to talk about sex so much. And then also because I'm not your typical stereotypical like introvert Asian guy. So I think in that way, like I'm a unicorn, right? And so that's the reason why when it comes to intimacy and things like that, I think that my perspective of both my ethnicity and then also my so one other thing, I did get my brain scan when I was before in my around my 20 something 25 or late 25 ish. I got my brain scan because I was going to go and adopt instead of going to China to be a missionary. My wife at the time and I wanted to adopt children, and we were going to adopt from China. So before that, I wanted to make sure that I was good, so I got my brain scanned, and when I got my brain scanned, it showed the fact that I was neurodivergent. And so I believe the fact that neurodivergency, that idea, really did also impact the way that that my growing interest in the brain. And so when it comes to intimacy, a lot of the ideas about the difference between the sexuality of a male brain and a female brain and all the research, that stuff fascinates me. So Chinese philosophy, brain stuff when it comes to sex, and then my own personal experience, definitely those three things combined really give me a unique perspective.
Definitely. Wow. I can't wait to dive in with your presentation too on Thursday or Wednesday. So next, Anasuya, what is your unique perspective?
Okay. Well, even though I knew this question, it's still taking me for a loop. Compassion. I have compassion for myself. Okay. Because I was somebody who was bullied a lot and deemed too much, too different, too smart, to fill in the blank. I had a lot of twos in front of me. And so my growing up was very challenging in terms of wanting to fit in, very clear that I can't, not sure why. I understood the words they said, but it made no sense to me. I'm also unique in the sense that my mother was a very active participant in the civil rights movement. As a college student, almost got kicked out of school twice because of her involvement in the movement, and then went on to study law and became a civil rights attorney to be one of the people enforcing the Civil Rights Act, which, yes, you can pass a law, but that's a very different thing to have it applied. It had to be forced. And people were not like, well, they can say what they want in Washington, but we're not going to do it. So I grew up in a very unique atmosphere of being conscious, very aware of what's going on, very aware of how Jim Crow, whiteness, white supremacy, patriarchy work in terms of oppressing and annihilating Black and brown people, specifically Black people, being very aware that I had a duty because I was so well educated, because I was so involved early on. I mean, I was like 5 and 6 years old going to rallies and going to marches, and very clear that we have to do something. Like we were taught, you have to do something with the time you have. So that's very unique. Most kids were playing with dolls and playing games and hopscotch. That was not me. I did have some times with Jacks, but we were out there really learning the importance of being involved and standing up for what's right. Because if you don't, the machine runs over you. What else is unique about me is some of the ways I didn't handle. I was one of the first people to let me put it differently. I was like the second wave of people who were integrating all white schools, because there was the first wave in the 50s after Brown versus Board of Education, but there was another wave in the 70s. And I guess a new generation meant like starting all over again, because my brother and I went to integrate the white schools. Those teachers were not happy, just very cruel, to put it mildly. And to go from an all-Black school and a community where teachers loved us and really wanted us to succeed, so much was riding on the next generation, that to go to a place where the white teachers put us in remedial schools, even though we did not belong there, treated us as if we're idiots. All the ways that racism had a play made me really feel hopeless about my ability to make a difference and to follow my mother's footsteps. So I actually attempted suicide at 13. And so that makes me relatable to a lot of students, because right now the suicide rate for young people is around 12, somewhere between 9 and 12. And it's rising for Black girls. And when I read those statistics, I'm like, oh my God, nothing's changed since I was 12 years old. What the bleep? So that makes me unique in knowing that. And, I also was, as a young person, sexually abused. And many, many children that we're going to talk to have experienced that. And for me, it was both by a family member and a stranger. So I know about all of the different ways it can happen. So these things make me very unique. And also, I was an exchange student to Sweden at 17. Not that many people like this. I was one of 2 Black people on the whole, all of the going to Sweden. There are only 2 of them. Luckily, they were smart enough to put us together in the same city. But, hey, we were in an all-white country and there's 2 little Black drops. So, I have a lot of unique experiences like that. But it definitely helped me to understand how to navigate the cultural divide between languages, between races, between religions. Like I was constantly in a place where I can be that bridge to people understanding each other, or I can get run over by the bridge, which is, I've lived in both. So I'm choosing to be more of the bridge and stay above water. But, suicide ideations, unfortunately, come often because of my early childhood trauma. So I just have to constantly remember I'm here for a reason, and it's worth fighting through this, but it's not always too easy to remember. So I can relate to kids who are struggling with that as well.
Wow, that is powerful. What a story. I didn't realize that about your mother's civil rights. Phew. Wow, that's a lot to process. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing the vulnerability. Next, Cindy, dear, what do you think your unique perspective is? You're muted, dear.
Good. Yes. So when you think in Peru, you basically think on the big tribe that there were the Incas. But I am from a different tribe called Huancas. So how did the Hispanic wing, when they came to Peru against the Incas, was because my tribe helped the Hispanic. That was kind of shocking for me to know first, because I was like, how did I help them? How did my ancestors did? And it was just because my ancestors, the Huanca people, they didn't want it to be conquered, neither by the Incas, neither by the Hispanics. So my people, they were always struggling. They were always just like in battles against the Incas, because the Incas wanted to follow the rules or what the Incas, but the Huancas didn't want it. So when the Hispanic people came, they were like, oh, here are the ones, finally, we can do this. We can just make an agreement with them. But they made an agreement, and the agreement was like, if we help you, like, we don't want to follow any order from you, Hispanic, and from you, Incas. So none of them. We're going to provide you food. We're going to provide you all what you need. But please, you don't have to rule in our tribe. So that's what they did. So for sure, there was always this kind of thriving times where most people were always dying like, because there were those battles. But they were always still making that time for just like still working hard. So the Wanka tribe are known because they work really hard. They are hard workers, but they are always, even though they work so hard from sun to sun, let's say, from sun to moon, they always make a space for just like play, let's dance, listen music while they're working. So that is what I just forgot to cultivate when I came here. And when did I discover, when did I get conscious, was when pandemic hit. So when pandemic hit was the time where I was like, I have all the time now, because remember, I was mentioning that I used to work so hard. When I came here, when I went to the US, I used to just work from long hours. I was a masochist, as you said, just trying to get everything as soon as I want, because I was so focused on just like getting all the money that I want so I can go back to my country. So missing the past, waiting for the future, and forgetting the present. But on COVID was the time where I was like, okay, now I have time. What am I going to do? And by that time, when I was 28, when COVID, like 3 years ago, my son was already big. He was 8 years old, 7 years old. So I was like, okay, so there is this time. What am I going to do? That's when I start like, okay, music makes me feel great. Let's just dance. Let's just like activate those feeling good hormones in my body. So I started to get conscious, and that's where I met laughter yoga also. And I was like, okay, now intentionally, let's do something for my mental health. And I think that is can help our emerging adulting now, just to have that tool, because all the time, all our life, in any situation, we're going to be facing challenges, and we just need to tap inside of us, not outside of us.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I want to go on to the third question before we get further along here. And it's similar in a way about what your unique perspective is, but it's really focusing on the adulting, emerging adults that we're focused on and targeting. It's how do you see your work empowering young lives to turn challenges into opportunities? So really just kind of, for me, I think that there's so much challenge for stress and anxiety, suicide rates, all kinds of data for men. We need to support them now. We supported the girls, and now there's so much of a mix-up for trying to balance really both psyches and both genders and both opportunities to grow at this emerging time in their lives is really, for me, which I shared in the beginning, is you've got to lower the noise internally and really have a practice that's really sustainable for you to, throughout any kind of bombardment of stress in your exterior world, you can do coherent breathing. Nobody knows you're doing it. But if you get it going in your nervous system, where the brain, the heart come into a coherent state, where the brain is high alpha, where your brain is alert and also relaxed, it's different than other types of meditation where you go into a deep parasympathetic rest and digest. This is a place where your brain is still alert and it's still relaxed. So that place is such a rejuvenated space for the brain to really get in as a full connection to your brain can always go there if stress starts arising. And then the heart rate variability that happens in the heart when the brain and the heart start coming into coherence. It seems like innocuous, these 5 breaths per minute, but if you practice it enough, the stats for the last 20 years have been extraordinary to reverse PTSD from 30 years ago. Old brain stuff can actually reverse. So we are really at a place for these young people to develop that kind of practice so they can really navigate their stress. They can take on that challenge of our all of us are challenged with our exterior world, and really use this practice as an opportunity to really change their mindset and their state of mind. And also all the research about the felt sense, the somatic, the body, the polyvagal theory. I know that this community knows what that is, about feeling safe in the body, and then allowing that safety to come up to the heart, and the heart expands its field with love and compassion. So that's really my offering to the group, and opportunities for them to change challenges into opportunity. And Steph, I'm curious go ahead, give
Sure,
me.
thank you. Well, my work is really about like reminding us to return to nature and return to us as nature. And, really believing that creativity is actually our birthright. And, it's not always taught. We were taught really box thinking and, us against them. And, there's just these ways where we're just, the minute we start school at a young age, it's about competitiveness. And rather than honoring our unique gifts, it's put into this other way. I'm always reminded of the Indian mystic Sadhguru, and he talks about the only model that we can measure ourselves with is a cosmic model, and all the other models create suffering. And I really believe that to be true. So like this model, like with my work, I have this body of work that has been ongoing called Wonder, where a way for the cosmos to know itself. And it's about showing that in the ways that I know how. And it's like, I believe that we're all on a field. It's not just some people on the spectrum, so to speak. Like we're all on it. It's a spectrum. And like by sharing and showing light and trusting our innate sensing and senses, which we weren't always taught, can make a huge difference to young adults. Like we're each a reflection of stars, not just some people, like every single one of us. And I think that like the unique gifts that each one of us has, like every single one of us is here for a purpose. And it will assist, like knowing what that is, assist the inner landscape of ourselves. So regardless of what's going on in the outside world, like when we have that, we have hope. And with hope, it really paves a way. And so I really believe that like in showing these ways of sharing this wonder, because I have had hope and lost hope and have hope again, and just seeing what that has done. And tools and ways to do that. And I also learned from having my brain scanned at a certain time that from the way that I was seeing, I get into a state of theta. And because I know how to do that, I can share it. And I really feel like that's a gift that I can give, because that is the state we had from 0 to 7. We were in that state, and that's how we got programmed to be the way that we are, and we can program differently. So I really feel like, that's what I love about this group and all the gifts that we all have here to come together to really give incredible things to these young adults to help those challenges into opportunities. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mr. Sun.
Thank you, Dehanna. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of challenges, right? So puberty is between 7 and 15. So that's where we go into our bodies as, sexual beings. And then when we're talking about emerging adults, that's sandwiched between adolescence, which is 13 to 17, and then early or young adult, which is 26 to 39. So when you think about the 18 to 25 space, you're really getting into your identity, your motivations when it comes to intimacy and sex, and with our current culture, especially among this age, with hookup culture and with Tinder swiping and with an online entertainment when it comes to getting sex through that medium, there's a lot of challenges. And I think that because sex, there's it's been said that Americans have an easier time having sex than talking about sex. And so I believe the fact that when it comes to the ignorance, right, the ignorance of just it's an opportunity for understanding. It's an opportunity to understand how our brains work, because there's been so much science now about the brain in relation to our sexuality. And then also in terms of just really leaning into what is our vision and values for post 18 to 25. Like, what do you really, really want from your life? And for any experience you may have had with involving sexual coercion. Like, this is also a challenge. And I think, again, either the person who's coercing or the person who's been coerced, this is an opportunity for us to rise to our innate humanity, right? Like the divine within. How do we really treat each other in a way that is honoring of their whole self, right? Because I think that sometimes we look at sex in a very almost like eating food. Like, we wouldn't consider just swallowing food as just nourishing our body. Like, there's so much more to dining, right? When you dine is like intimacy, is where you're enjoying one another, and that's emotional, spiritual, sexual, all the different ways. And I think that that is an opportunity for connection. That's an opportunity to battle loneliness, to increase our health, like the Taoists would teach. So there's a lot of opportunities in this age group.
Yeah, wow, definitely. That is going to be an interesting subject. Tune in on Wednesday, I'm telling you. It always blows my mind what comes out of your mouth, because I feel like the universe is just coming through you as a conduit. Like, wow, that's like, what's her name? Ruth. Do you remember the sex therapist, Ruth? Ask Ruth or something?
Dr. Ruth.
Yeah, Dr. Ruth times 10.
Oh,
Mr.
thanks.
Sun is Dr. Ruth times 10. Trust me, you'll learn a lot listening on Wednesday. So beautiful. Next, I invite you, beautiful Anasuya, to share that challenges to opportunities.
I was blessed that in the time of my experiences, I was still granted opportunities to learn and to grow and to receive great mentors, and to be taught that I actually have agency over myself, that I could let the story, the very disempowering story of my different abuses, lock me in a certain way, or I can use the power of my understanding of my own inner divinity and declare something new. The kids today don't have that message. The children today have not learned yet about their inner divinity. They haven't learned that they actually have agency over it, because so many factors outside of them are happening to them, whether it be the climate problem, whether it be police killing their friends, whether it be schools kicking them out. There's so many things that are out of their control, and that they're not guided to. These things are out of your control, but here's the thing that's in your control. Let's focus on that, on agency. So everything I'm teaching is about sovereignty, because right now it's very difficult to be Black in America. It has always been, but it is even more so now, because laws are different than what it was for me. When I was younger, I was able to be seen as someone who was victimized. Today, young Black kids, especially Black girls, their victimization is seen as a crime. They're actually punished for being abused, for being trafficked, for being kidnapped. They're actually going to jail for it. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense about what's happening right now. More children, more girls are in the foster care system, which leaves them vulnerable to being trafficked, which leaves them vulnerable. More Black girls are in foster care system, are sexually abused than any other group in foster care. So there's no safe space for Black girls right now. There's no safe place for girls in general, but Black girls have it really rough. So everything of my work has been about, okay, this is the hand you were dealt. It sucks. What are we going to do with it? How do we relanguage a negative into a positive? How do we do that creatively? How do we do it dynamically? How do we do it spiritually? How do we reclaim our divine worth when the world has told us we have no worth? We don't matter. What happens to us, no one cares about. And there's a lot of evidence for that. Well, let me be the evidence that, oh, yes, you do matter. Your voice matters. Your life matters. Your living matters. You're here with a purpose. And this message is not just for these children going through this experience. It's for all of us, because I think we all forget if we ever knew, So this, I'm inviting everyone to embrace the journey of discovering or remembering your divine worth. Because that's that tapping into that power is how we are going to shift the consciousness on this planet. And so I thank you all for coming.
Definitely.
On Thursday, yes.
Yeah, Thursday, Anasuya, tune in for her full presentation. And we only have a couple of minutes here to bring Jim back on. So Cindy, please take the floor. Maybe you can even, do a little laughter yoga just to bring us into, Jim will, after you explain a little bit of challenges into opportunity, what you feel. I mean, let us practice a little bit and then we'll have Jim come back in.
For sure. So what is basically this laughter yoga exercise is going to be just laughing intentionally. So I'm going to invite you right now, just like to relax your body a little bit, more, move, and pronounce the consonants ho, ha from the very tip of your diaphragm so we can exhale better, okay? And we can have a better oxygenation in our body. So move in a different direction, just pronouncing the consonants ho, ha. You can follow me if you feel you needed to. 1, 2, 3. Ho, ha, hey, ho, ho, ha, ha, ho, 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 ha, 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 ha. Great. So let's inhale. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. And exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. So we're going to do one exercise, which is unleashing your laughter. We're going to do by sizes. So we're going to start with a small laughter and then doing a medium-sized laughter and then a large laughter. So we can start pretending, doesn't matter. It still releases the feeling good hormone. So let's try it. A small laughter. Let's do a medium-sized laughter. And now let's do a large laughter.
Jim, why don't you come into the laughter?
So what neuroscience has proven, I want to share this information. It is like, even though you're pretending or just with a short, simple smile, your neurocortex, it's releasing those negative electroshocks from your body. So let's laugh more intentionally for mental health.
Hear, hear. Absolutely. Underline that. We all need some laughter on the planet.
Yes.
Jim, thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Deanna, and all of you for a very thoughtful and personally disclosive program today. Most of the time, people talk about various issues and much less about their inner selves. But you've done that today, and I really appreciated that. Anasuya, I just wanted to say, I was particularly just struck by your presentation because, it's tough enough being white in a white world. And then when you add the scourge of racism, which sort of doubles the challenge, and particularly as it's focused, as it's been on both Black men in a very specific way, but then also Black women in another but very specific way, you have a double whammy that most people don't realize one carries just day by day by day. So I just want to acknowledge that. And I think also Shay, for you and Cindy, being Asian in the United States, being Hispanic in the United States isn't, quite as onerous as being Black, but the scourge of racism complicates and reinforces the very stresses that we're all seeking to transform into, positive vibes. And our young people are just being crushed by it. Then when you put on the layers of social media and, all the other things that the world is throwing at us, you've got some challenges that are literally unprecedented in history. And so the work that you all are doing is so crucial, because the youth carry the future. That's the bottom line, is the youth carry the future. And we need to pay very close attention to how they're empowered or not, because that determines the future. That determines the future. So I just want to thank all of you for everything that you're doing in this space, and really look forward to the next couple of days where each of you will take your own time to talk more deeply about these very grave matters. So thank you for that.
Wonderful. Yep. So we're going to do a full week of this. Tomorrow we are going to have beautiful Stephanie, and her visionary train will be on the tracks and showing her vision and all the different aspects of developing an amazing opening for the mind that I've experienced with her. And I wanted to acknowledge Cindy, because she didn't have her bio today, because we didn't know if you'd be coming on from Guatemala clearly. But we're going to have her do more of that laughter yoga on Friday's panel, where we'll all come back together like today in a final. So many blessings to the community. I'm so glad you were here to witness each one of these amazing practitioners. I'm so honored to be a part of this group and to be able to, show our wares here on Humanity Rising. Thank you so much to your staff, George and Stanley. We're going to go to the after chat now. Whoever wants to join, I think most of us will be there, and looking forward to it, continuing the discussion.
Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Anasuya and Stephanie, Cindy, and Shay. Great program. You're good people. It's very inspiring. Very, very inspiring. So that brings us to a close for today, everyone. You're welcome to the after session chat, and then we'll see you all again tomorrow for a deeper dive with Stephanie. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.